Father Alexander Elchaninov, in his wonderful book, Diary of a Russian Priest, shares with us these very powerful words about the importance of attending to our spiritual lives. He writes this: "In marriage, the festive joy of the first day should last for the whole of life. Every day should be a feast day. Every day, husband and wife should appear to each other as new, extraordinary beings. The only way of achieving this, let them both deepen their spiritual life and strive hard in the task of self-development." Hello everyone, we're here to help prepare you to go on date number 7, chapter 7 in the book, entitled Something to Believe In. And this date, you will discuss personal growth, growth as a couple, and personal development, and the role that spirituality and faith plays in that journey. We want to start by saying, first of all, I love John Gottman. I'm doing my PhD on John Gottman, but he does write this book from a secular point of view. And because of that, it has what we would say a secular phronema to it. And so it's a little bit limited.
Yeah, and because it's for a secular audience, it can't delve into, our orthodox understanding of spiritual growth. Mm-hmm. And that's something we really wanted to touch on because that's central to our life and to everything we do.
Our faith in Christ, our faith is being Orthodox Christians. This is the glue of our marriage. And having faith in God allows every experience in our life to be something that is sacred and can be transfigurational, whether it's a positive experience or a negative experience. Our faith in God gives meaning to those experiences. So what would you say is the goal of marriage?
Well, because we're talking about spirituality and growth, and we know that the goal of our whole life is ultimately salvation, to reach the kingdom of heaven, that is the goal of marriage as well. And if we see our marriage as a way of reaching the kingdom of heaven, as a way of salvation, that's what our ultimate goal is. Not personal happiness or self-fulfillment, though these things can definitely take place in a healthy marriage, and they should. That's not the ultimate goal. It's salvation.
Yeah, I think it's quoted in this chapter, but research shows that those who hold their marriage, their relationship as being sacred, have a higher rate of success. That relationships are healthier and last much longer.
Yeah, and therefore every experience can be sacred. Even conflict can be sacred if we see it as a way of reaching the kingdom of heaven, if we see it as an opportunity for spiritual growth.
Practicing self-denial, practicing patience, practicing humility, these are all opportunities to grow in Christ. St. Moses the Black reminds us how important it is to be humble in everything that we do. And he says, "Let us hold fast to humility in every manner and every work." So throughout this series, the Gottmans have made a point of discussing rituals of connection and how important those rituals are in fostering unity in a couple. How would you say that we can use our faith to develop these rituals of connection, or use our faith as rituals of connection?
Number one is praying together. In the marriage service, we say we become one flesh, but really it's more than that. From an eternal point of view, we become oneness of mind, oneness of soul, not just oneness of flesh. And so by praying together, we become intimately connected on a spiritual level. And that's just as important, if not more important, than, a physical level, mental level. So number one is prayer, praying together. Do your daily prayers together, morning prayers or evening prayers, whatever you can do. As a couple, make sure you make time for prayer together.
What about the liturgical life? Like, orienting our family life around the life of the church? How do you do that practically?
Well, as a clergy family, this kind of comes naturally. But even before we were married, I think about growing up, how in our family, going to church was number one, celebrating the feasts of the church. Throughout the year, reading the lives of the saints, just being in tune with what's going on in the life of the church, and making those times, those holidays, times of fasting, times of feasting, a part of your family life. That's to make the life of the church central.
It brings us together, and I think in the life of a parish, the people are all brought together in the feasts of the church. Mm-hmm. So celebrating feasts brings us together and brings unity, and I think that happens in the family too.
Yeah.
So it's inherent in our belief as Orthodox Christians, and this is in the chapter as well, that we will always be growing and developing. And from an Orthodox point of view, we'd say we're always either moving forward or moving backwards. But we should always be seeking to develop our relationship with God and with one another. So when it comes to personal development, personal growth, what role can our spouse play in that?
Wow, well, obviously praying together is a big help, but we each have to work on ourselves individually as well. Just giving each other time, respecting each other's own journey. Maybe we're in different places spiritually.
And that's very common.
Yeah, very common. And so just respecting that, praying for them on their journey, praying for God to help them with whatever it is they need help with, and just being a gentle presence for them. We can take note of their strengths, encourage them in their journey.
Father Alexander Elchaninov, in his wonderful book, Diary of a Russian Priest, shares with us these very powerful words about the importance of attending to our spiritual lives. He writes this: "In marriage, the festive joy of the first day should last for the whole of life. Every day should be a feast day. Every day, husband and wife should appear to each other as new, extraordinary beings. The only way of achieving this, let them both deepen their spiritual life and strive hard in the task of self-development." I think it's George or Father Timothy, I forget who first mentioned this about raising children, about being curious about them when they're throwing a tantrum or having a hard time, being curious of what's going on rather than offering correction right away. And so I kind of think about that in marriage too. How can I be curious about my spouse rather than wanting to correct them? Curiosity comes from a humble place. It comes from a place of humility, to be curious about another person and wonder what's going on beneath the surface. And correction, even when we're in a place where we're supposed to correct others, it can be dangerous because it generally comes from a place of pride. And so to try to avoid being critical and rather being curious about our partner's behaviors.
And well, that goes with listening in a way that's not condescending, but yeah, being curious, listening like with open ears, open heart, open mind, to really try to understand. It's that whole part of understanding that helps you grow together as a couple as well. So yeah, not just snapping at each other and saying, well, you did that wrong, or
we never do that.
No.
I think when correction is needed and should be offered, we can use what the Gottmans call gentle startup. And that is not to come with passion, but to come even, again, from a humble place, even though we're offering correction, and really describe what's happening inside of us, what we're feeling, what we experienced as a result of our partner's actions, or what we see our children experiencing as a result of our partner's actions, or even the harm that we see our partner suffering from their own actions. So coming gently with humility, I think, is a precursor for any kind of correction that's going to take.
And with love, because if your partner, if your spouse knows you genuinely love them unconditionally, then they're going to be able to hear it.
So we've talked about personal growth and development and how our spouse can help us. I think personal development and spiritual growth is impossible without something that we rarely have in our culture, and that is stillness or quiet. It's impossible to have self-reflection, reflecting on our weaknesses and examining our strengths and how we can develop them without being quiet and taking enough time to allow the noise to go away so that we can hear our conscience and hear the voice of God.
So it can be hard to find those moments of stillness and quiet, when you have a family, when you have a hectic schedule. It's really loud at our house with our 5 boys. But I encourage you to find those moments when you're driving in your car, you have some time by yourself, any spare moment where you might seek distraction in other things and entertainment, and at your phone, saying, wait, let me take these few moments, do a few Jesus prayers, or find time to read a spiritual book instead of, watching a show. And those things will really help you on your journey of spiritual growth.
In Christian marriage, one of the important elements that helps create shared meaning and spiritual connection between spouses is the manner in which we live out our Christian life by serving one another and offering hospitality to others. And there was a story you told me about a pious Greek woman. Can you share that? I think that's
we knew this wonderful Greek woman back when we were in seminary, and we were visiting them, and she was showing us so much hospitality, she and her husband, and I just was kind of amazed at how she would, she was just working so tirelessly. And I said, aren't you getting tired? After she was getting up and down, serving us dinner, then making a dessert. And she's like, no, she was holding her apron. And she kissed the neckband of her apron.
Like the priest does.
Like the priest does. And she says, no, I put on my epitrachili and I go to work. And I was like, wow, that just floored me. It was so profound, such a profound statement. So to think of our work as, especially as mothers, I think of this as wives, think of our work as service, as holy, as sacred, just like when the priest serves in the altar. So that was a really helpful thing to me. And I think of that when we serve our family, we're serving Christ too, at the same time. And if we think of it that way, it'll help us grow for sure.
So in closing, we just want to encourage you and say that on this journey of personal growth and personal development and growth as a couple and development as a couple, you are not alone.
Yeah, I was thinking we can go through times that are discouraging. We can go through difficult times, but we're not alone on this journey. We have Christ, we have the saints, we have the Mother of God, we have the whole church on our side, ready to help us. So that's what's so beautiful about our spiritual growth, is that we have a whole host of supporters ready to help us. We just need to ask, we just need to pray and participate in what the church gives us to help us on our journey. And so we can grow together as a couple, but it's not just you and I together trying to figure it out on our own. We have the church to help us. We have Christ himself to give us strength, to give us the grace we need, because, we need a lot of grace to do this.
And that's, as, he says, we're growing closer to God, we grow closer to each other. And that's the truth.
Yeah. It's a good way to end it. Have fun on your dates.
To my soul, till the stars fall out of the sky, and the rivers they all run
So what is your mission as a couple, your marriage mission? Have you ever considered what God has for you to do as a married couple that you couldn't have achieved by yourself? Most couples ask this question, how can we get the most out of our marriage? And it's a very valid question. It's one we visited several times over the course of this 8-date series. But there's another question that also needs to be addressed. Instead of asking, how can we get the most out of our marriage? Should we be instead asking, what does God want out of our marriage? We've got an extra assignment for you this week, and that is to write your own personal marriage mission statement. It will be a time that you'll consider your core values, to envision the big picture, to gain focus and clarity. So, what is a marriage mission? Wikipedia describes a mission statement as a statement of the purpose of a company, organization, or person. Its reason for existing. The mission statement should guide the actions of the organization, spell out its overall goal, provide a path, and guide decision-making. So, we have some steps that we are inviting you to take. One is to start by composing your mission statement, writing all the positive, affirming words that describe the ideal marriage. Use nouns and verbs and adjectives and just write a bunch of words down on a piece of paper. And then you're going to consolidate it in step 2. Get those words into sentences. Sentences that inspire you, that drive you, that mean something to you, that cover your dreams as a couple. And the third step is that you review the vision with your spouse and revise it until you both agree what describes the ideal picture of your marriage together. And then, fourth is you're going to put it in an obvious place. It's not going to be tucked into a drawer, but it's going to be posted, maybe by your iconostacion, your prayer corner, maybe even by the front door or by the kitchen sink. So again, you're going to think about what is the purpose of your marriage? What are your dreams and long-term goals? What are the principles and beliefs that guide your marriage relationship? What is the role of your spiritual life and the benefits that plays into your marriage? So, like a lot of the things that we've been addressing over 8 dates, communication, money, trust, parenting, life. So let's say, for example, you might want to say, we will honor Christ in how we speak to each other, even and especially during times of conflict. We will seek to build each other up and not words to tear each other down. We'll listen to learn, and we'll listen to each other's feelings, not listen to win an argument. Or it might sound like this. It is the mission of our marriage to be an example of love to our children, those that enter our house, and those we call our friends and family. So keep in mind, your marriage mission and vision statement can be as brief or elaborate as you want. We've seen 3 or 4 lines, and others 5 or 10 lines. But whatever you decide, make it about your core values and the vision for your marriage, where it is and where you believe it should go. We hope that you'll take time out of this marriage journey that you're on to compose your marriage mission statement. We believe that you will be all the richer for doing so. Plus, you'll gain clarity and focus for your future together. May God bless you throughout this time as you grow and develop in your spiritual life and in your vision together.